Grenades have always been one of the most fun parts of the Borderlands franchise, and Borderlands 4 absolutely keeps that tradition alive. There are so many insane and overpowered grenades in this game, but the real question is, which ones are actually must-haves for every Vault Hunter? Don't worry, I got you covered today. I'm breaking down the 5 best grenades in Borderlands 4, what makes them broken, and exactly how to get them. Now, before we start this list, this is going to be like grenade-based ordnance, not actually miniguns or any of the other type of ordnance in the game, just the grenades. And as always, this is just my opinion. This list isn't really ordered, except for number 1, because that thing is just straight up broken. But as always, let's start with number 5. Kicking things off at number 5, we've got the underdog of Borderlands 4 grenades, I think, and it's the Swarm. And this grenade is just way more than a normal homing grenade because of the Swarm's legendary unique effect, Swish, which on explosion splits into 3 homing grenades, which split twice. So you throw one and then it turns into 3, and then out of those 3s, every single one that hits an enemy will turn into another 3 homing grenades, and then those will finally explode. So you can have a bunch of homing projectiles flying across your screen from just one grenade. You could also get a bunch more of these grenades depending on what, your enhancement increases or anything like that, how many skills you have that increase your grenade count, your grenade cooldown, your grenade damage, all of that. Obviously, this grenade shines in mobbing content. You can literally walk into an area, spam a few of these, and just watch everything die. It's incredible for drill sites, vaults, or any mob-heavy activity where you just want the chaos to do the work for you. Now, in my opinion, if you have a grenade build, or if you're looking for a grenade to handle, again, a majority of the game's content, this is definitely the one for you. This is a lazy man's grenade. If you don't really want to do anything, and if you don't really want to move from one spot, or even aim, just get the Swarm, chuck as many of them as you can, as often as you can, and you won't really have to shoot anything. Quick warning though, this thing will down you if you're too close to an enemy when one of those homing grenades is doing its thing. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to get too close to the enemies when this thing is out there causing chaos. Now, if you wanted to farm the Swarm for yourself, it's a dedicated legendary drop from Sydney Pointy Legs at a drill site. So it's a pretty easy farm, I would say. It's not too difficult. You do have to go through a drill site to get it, but it is the easiest drill site in the entire game, so just keep that in mind. Sydney is probably the easiest drill site boss in the entire game for probably one of the best grenades in the entire game, so I would say it's definitely a fair trade-off. Now, unfortunately, the damage is a little lower than some others on the list. That's why it's on number 5, but don't get that twisted. This grenade is stupidly fun and absolutely worth using. It does drop off in the UVHM levels a little bit though. However, if you're running through the game and if you need a grenade to get you through the end game content, to get you to those UVHM levels, the Swarm is definitely a top 5 contender for you. Coming in at number 4 is another early grenade that you could get in the game, and probably the earliest legendary grenade you could get in the game, and one of the strongest legendary grenades in the entire game. It's going to be the Jelly Grenade. Now, what makes this grenade so unique and powerful besides its name is, of course, its unique legendary effect, self-replicating, which grenades hit surfaces or enemies and replicate, bouncing around the area, dealing grenade element splash damage. Basically, you're getting an insane amount of explosions for free out of this one little grenade. It could deal some insane damage. Early game, this thing is absurd. It could one-shot mobs and even chunk bosses early. It honestly feels like the Borderlands 4 version of the fastball. Don't get me wrong, it's like very watered down version of the fastball, but to me, out of using it for a couple, 10, 20, 30 hours here and there, it definitely feels like a fastball. It has that kick, it has the power, not quite as broken, but it definitely fills that Borderlands 2 grenade void. Now, it can roll in multiple elements, which lets you push the damage even further, and again, if you do have a grenade build, you can get an infinite amount of these. They replicate, or they replenish so fast, you could constantly be chucking these out. Keep in mind, you do have to be a little bit more better at aiming and less lazy than with the swarm, but it will still do an insane amount of damage, and it's incredibly satisfying to use. Now, if you wanted to farm the jelly for yourself, you could get one as a dedicated legendary drop from Splash Zone, meaning you could get this thing before level 5, and honestly, I highly recommend grabbing one early game. Even in endgame, a well-used jelly could still put in some serious work. Again, this thing is really fun to use. It can take you to some of the UVHM levels, however, it does start to drop off a little bit, but it is still great, and for most of the game's content, it could get you through there without really any issue if you do plan on using a grenade as your ordnance. Moving on to number 3, we have somewhat of a controversial pick, but I have to stand by it. You either love it or you hate it, and it's going to be the legendary Fuse grenade mod. I get both sides of it, but I think it's one of the better grenades in the whole game if you get a decent roll. Mainly, though, I think it's so good because of its unique legendary effect, Fuse, which doesn't have a description listed, unfortunately, but it turns your grenade into a bouncing Betty that's spawns off other grenades, and what's really special about this grenade is the fact that it comes with 2 separate augments every single time, and it will be random augments. It will not spawn with the same ones. Well, you obviously can get it to spawn with the same ones, however, it doesn't spawn with the same ones every single time, which is pretty cool, but it means that there's a lot of variation between each grenade, but that could also mean that one grenade mod could be stupidly overpowered, while one of the grenade mods can be a little bit lackluster. Again, though, this thing shines in mobbing content regardless of the augments just because of the AoE and how much raw damage it deals, and obviously if you get it in an element it will deal insane damage as well. But again, go through mobbing content, this thing will destroy drill sites, or it's just a great grenade to have through general content like the story, traveling around the map, going through vaults. It doesn't really matter. It has a nice AoE, high explosive damage, and more importantly, it's extremely fun to use. It kind of feels like a Stormfront from Borderlands 2 again, if you want that type of vibe. It does great damage. Again, it has that great elemental damage of the electric and everything, but if you wanted to farm the Fuse for yourself, you could get one as a dedicated legendary drop from Driller Hole, who's everyone's favorite punching bag, but you will have to progress through the story a little bit in order to actually get Driller Hole as a boss. Not too far though. I think this grenade is really a must-have, just like the Stormfront was a must-have in Borderlands 2 for every single Vault Hunter. It doesn't matter if you're struggling through mobbing content or if you're struggling with larger bosses or anything like that, like the Vault Guardians or even Bloom Reaper, the Invincible. This grenade could deal some great damage as long as you could actually get them to stay in one spot while the entire grenade is going off. But I highly suggest you get a few of these, or you at least get one of these and test it out on a drill site so you can at least see how good this thing is for yourself. And I guarantee you'll thank me later because I really think it is great. I'm only putting it at number 3. I think it should go a little bit higher. I'm leaving it at number 3 because it's a controversial pick and some people may hate it. Moving on to our number 2 spot, we have another really solid and pretty overpowered Merv grenade, and you probably should know it's the BlockBuster. A lot of people were probably expecting this one to be number 1, or maybe a different grenade mod should be number 1. However, I'm putting it at number 2 because the BlockBuster is insane. This grenade has been pretty loved by the community so far, and it's for a pretty good reason. This thing absolutely shreds. Again, since it's a Merv, it mainly shines in mobbing content, but this thing is a must-have for all Vault Hunters, doesn't matter what you're specifically doing. If you're looking for some serious grenade damage to increase your overall DPS to get you through some of the harder games content, like again, the Vaults or the Bloom Reaper or anything like that, this is the grenade for you. I say this because of the crazy unique legendary effect Got You Covered, which splits into Merv and bouncy grenades. It doesn't sound that impressive, but you could stun lock mobs of enemies, you could delete mobs of enemies before they even aggro onto you. Those bouncy grenades create a pretty solid splash zone, and if you get a cryo one, which I highly suggest you do, it will just freeze everything on this screen. Obviously, the BlockBuster thrives off of that elemental damage, so if you run any elemental build like a Vex or an Amon, you'll need one of these things. It can make you do an insane amount of damage. I use this thing over so many different grenade mods in the entire game, even a certain knife that we're going to get to in a minute from time to time, just to help me go through some mobbing sections. If you want to farm drill sites as fast as you can, use a BlockBuster. If you want to farm the vault as fast as you can, use the BlockBuster. If you want to level yourself up as fast as you can, use a BlockBuster. This is the best grenade, one of the best grenades, I should say, excuse me, in the entire game for mobbing. I would say it probably is the best grenade for mobbing. It is insane. It's so powerful. Also, it's great against smaller bosses, like, any of the drill site bosses. But again, if you need to take out any mobs, this is the grenade for you. It does insane amount of damage. It has that insane splash zone, and it's just beautiful. Now, if you wanted to farm the BlockBuster for yourself, you could get one as a dedicated to legendary drop from Vile Lecter, which again means you have to go a decent way into the story before you could farm it, but it's worth it, I promise you. It does an insane amount of damage and is really more of a useful tool than any grenade on this list. I highly suggest every single Vault Hunter have it just for the stun locking capabilities. It is extremely fun to use. And again, if you have a grenade build, or if you have, a couple of pieces of gear that can increase the amount of grenades that you get, throw a couple of those on, throw these out at drill sites, and just watch everything be destroyed before they even fully spawn in. We can't get to the number 1 spot without, of course, throwing out an honorable mention, and honestly, this thing could have been at number 1 if it was a legendary, if I was just doing the best grenades in the entire game. But you all know I'm talking about that one special knife, the crit knife. You're looking for any Jacob's knife with the penetrator augment, which gives damage to impacted target, a 30% chance to crit for 5 seconds, and let me tell you, that 30% is pretty much a guarantee. A crit knife is a must-have. It could come in blue, it could come in purple, it doesn't matter. It's not a unique weapon, unfortunately, which we'll talk about in a second, but the crit knife is a must-have for any Vault Hunter. It has to be an honorable mention. Again, if it was a legendary, it would be number 1, so you're gonna need a crit knife if you plan on doing any serious bossing. Now, this is the best bossing grenade in the entire game. It usually comes with 3 or 4 charges, so even if the crit doesn't proc on the first throw, because again, it is a 30% chance, you have multiple chances. Pair this with any gun, any build, and bosses just melt away. So if you're really struggling on a certain boss because you just can't do enough damage, this is the grenade for you. You're going to want to stop with all of the other grenades. You're going to want to get this, and you're just going to want to focus on damaging the boss with your actual guns while using the crit knife to get as many crits off as you possibly can, because it basically doubles your damage, sometimes triples your damage. Now, unfortunately, there's no dedicated drop source since it's a non-legendary, so your best bet is farming anything that'll give you a lot of enemies or anything that'll give you a lot of loot, so drill sites or extremely easy bosses like Splash Zone. Now, you're going to want to farm them for blue or purple loot, run a couple of them, and then obviously check the loot, sell whatever you can, and you should get a crit knife pretty fast. They do drop pretty often. Also, if you could farm a boss that has a chest at the end, I have seen a bunch of them in chests, but there is no guaranteed drop source for it, so I highly suggest you just go out there and farm a couple of drill sites, or just really keep an eye out while you're farming any of these legendary grenades on the list for one of those beautiful crit knives. Finally, we've made it to our number 1 spot, and I'm sure you know what I'm gonna say. It's probably the most broken grenade mod in this entire game, besides the crit knife. They tried to nerf it a few times, but it still stands supreme amongst the rest. Of course, I'm talking about the Firepot. Now, what makes the Firepot so special, you're asking yourself? Well, it's obviously its unique legendary effect, Spicy, which spawns homing torg stickies over time. Yeah, that's right. Of course, the best grenade mod in the entire game is going to be a sticky launcher. Now, just like in previous Borderlands games, cough cough, Borderlands 3, the stickies in this game are absolutely broken. So if you want a grenade to one-shot bosses, one-shot badasses, one-shot mobs, it doesn't matter what level, what UVHM, or whatever difficulty you're playing on, the Firepot is for you. It doesn't matter what level you are, it doesn't matter what UVHM you are, it'll destroy everything in its path. Now, it isn't the most efficient mobbing grenade in the entire game. I would much rather suggest you get the BlockBuster or the Fuse or something like that if you plan on running drill sites over and over and over again, but It's still amazing for mobbing because it could one-shot mobs. It's just not going to be the most efficient way to get the best use out of this grenade. Now, obviously, you'll be able to spam a lot of stickies on any boss. You'll be able to spam a lot of stickies on any mob. So whatever is in front of you, this thing will pretty much destroy. It will shred whatever content you're going up against. And when I say it's not the best for mobbing, it's still a one-shot and insanely good in any scenario. It just doesn't have any crazy AoE attacks that'll make you a little lazy, but it has those spreading torque stickies, which can take down multiple mobs at the same time, so you'll be good no matter what situation you find yourself in. And if you have a grenade build, you could just non-stop chuck these things, which will turn into an infinite amount of torque stickies on your screen, which is basically just a death trap minefield for any mob that runs into your path. Now, obviously, if you wanted to farm the Firepot, aka the best grenade in the entire game, for yourself, you could get one as a dedicated legendary drop from Leader Wilhelm. So you will have to complete a full faction side quest line, but it's well worth it. It's for, the setup's not that difficult. It's extremely easy farm. I think you have to do like 3 side quests. It'll take you a total of maybe 30 minutes to actually get this whole entire farm set up, and then boom, the best grenade mod in the entire game is yours. It's great for mobbing, and it's a great bossing tool that I suggest you stop missing out on, no matter what Vault Hunter you're on, especially if you're playing on, let's say, a grenade build Rafa, or literally any character. It doesn't matter. If you want to one-shot bosses, especially early game, get the Firepot. And there you have it, my picks for the best legendary grenade ordinances in Borderlands 4. We'll cover the non-grenade ordinances in a future video, but honestly, every grenade in this video can take you through anything from early game to UVHM 5 content. Some just do it a little bit better than others, some require a build, and some just require Torg stickies. But obviously, if you want a good bossing grenade, do yourself a favor and get a crit knife. It'll change your life, I promise. The rest of the grenades on this list are mainly meant for mobbing besides the Firepot, but the crit knife is just a must-have if you're looking for anything to help you with bossing. And then obviously, same thing with the Firepot too. If you want to one-shot drill site bosses, go ahead and use the Firepot. If you want to help yourself go up against vault bosses or Bloom Reaper the Invincible, a crit knife is pretty much a must-have. But if there's a legendary grenade you swear by that I didn't mention, drop it in the comments. I know there's going to be a lot of mention of the waterfall grenade. I just didn't think it was as good as the BlockBuster or as good as the Firepot or even the Fuse, but let me know if you disagree in the comments. I'm sure a lot of you will. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, smash that sub, and as always, I appreciate you motherfuckers for watching this motherfucking video. Good luck out there and happy grinding.